So it is my absolute honor to be introducing our first guest speaker, Andreina Zuluaga, to you all today. So Andreina is just such an inspiration in so many ways. She was actually a student in the last cohort of the New American Speakers Program. So that you see when you do graduate the program, we do call on you for speaking engagements, sometimes very, very soon. So I'm very excited that Andreina is here today. I'll read her beautiful bio and she will then share with us her speech. So Andreina Zuluaga is a bilingual psychologist and a public speaker from Venezuela, as well as a social activist. She is the founder of OVJNU in Venezuela, Colombia, and OVJNU Global in New Jersey, USA. Nonprofits whose principles focus on the development of youth leadership, women empowerment, education, environmental protection, promoting youth activists as a way to involve them in academia, organizations, politics, and general society while making a positive impact at all levels, local, national, and international. Andreina identifies as a Christian and says she actively spreads the gospel of Christ. Her first book will be launched soon and is a compilation of poetry she wrote during her immigration journey. She integrates faith, stories, psychological knowledge, and experience. The purpose of the book is to showcase her story and to share her message, which is embrace your story, lead your process. Andreina is studying for a master's degree in social work at Fordham University. She works as a case manager at Catholic Charity Community Services in New Jersey, supporting immigrant newcomers through adaptation and accessing services. She's doing mental health screening for refugees and access to social services. As if that wasn't enough, Andreina is also a former volunteer psychologist and interpreter at RIF Asylum Support, an emotional support group created during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. She is still going to create awareness about mental health, supporting mental health for refugees, immigrants, and asylum seekers having difficult times dealing with trauma, grief, depression, anxiety, and isolation due to COVID-19 and the process of migration. So while many people may think that COVID and its impacts are over, as many refugee and immigrant activists know, it is very much from over. And so Andreina, I invited her to speak because I think her background in mental health and advocacy is just so admirable. And thank you so much for joining us, Andreina.
Thank you so much, Laura, for this invitation. I really feel honored to be here with all the beautiful stories. I hear Caterina's story, and I really feel a lot of relate with her story. And thank you for the introduction. Well, I will speak about mental health, going from big to small. And I really think mental health is crucial for refugees, immigrants, and newcomers, from the adaptation to the new country system, a new reality, a new beginning. And I think it's important for you to be graceful with yourself or with ourselves, and understanding is a dual way that we live, like having kindness with ourselves, but also allowing ourselves to make mistakes and move from there is something normal, and it's good to speak about in this kind of safe spaces that we have, that we fortunately have, right? So the loss of our home country is not just about change of allocation where we are. It's not just, oh, I moved to the United States. No, it's a really complex and deep process. We lost almost everything, like an identity there, a job, a life, family, a home, all the things that we used to have there, a profession. So it's really important for us to have the time to allow ourselves to have like the person that we are now and the person that we used to be. For example, in my case, in Venezuela, I used to be a psychologist, a social activist. I had business over there, but coming here, I had to start from scratch, like working in survival jobs, in restaurants, and then my volunteer jobs lead me to my professional job that I have now. But it's a process. It's not like just from like little time. You need to take the time to go through that process, right? So I think it's important to keep our values, or stories and the roots or the place that we come from. Like we don't lose our country because we just are immigrants. We keep the feel of our identity in our countries forever. So we always will be, will always will be Venezuelan. And I think it's important to have that kind of definition in our mind to consider ourselves. So stories from immigrants, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of immigrants from different backgrounds. As Laura mentioned, I volunteered myself to be part of an emotional support group during the pandemic, where I had the opportunity to be doing my skills as a psychologist under supervision of a doctor expert in trauma. So that allowed me to have the opportunity to know people from different countries. So the stories, and now I am working with Garifuna community women from Latin America. We had a group, the name is Grupo de Mujeres Latinas in Spanish, or Latin Group Women. So we are like an emotional support group for women in mental health and during the immigration process. So in 2019, I had an emotional breakdown. It was a mental health crisis for me. I spent 2 days without sleeping, consumed by worries regarding the legal situation I was facing without a response from my asylum request, and growing fear of not seeing my family anymore. Thanks God, I was able to get emotional support from my psychologist over Zoom meetings to help me go through these hard times. So a lot of people had the habit to have a psychologist, because it's different to get mental health, and it's not something that is cheap. It's expensive and it's hard to get. So a lot of people that I know, Venezuelan especially, or Latin American people, Spanish speaker, they pay a psychologist. Even the psychologist is in Venezuela, in Colombia, and in other country. So another story, I feel fear of the sound of police around me. It's made me feel scared of, and remembering the experience I had when I was in detention at the border. People had triggers, and these triggers just pop out in situations that we don't expect, like in the subway here in New York or in your workplace. You never know. So we need to make ourselves aware about these triggers. Another story, I feel a bit empathy. I have no friends. Sorry, it was a bit empty. So I have no friends here. I do not speak the language. My family is back in my country, and I don't know if I am going to see them or not anymore, because a lot of people are just in the middle of a limbo. They doesn't have any response to their cases. So they have this fear really deep and inside of them. So mental health care is key during the immigration process. It's important in the pre-immigration, during the process, and once you are adapting yourself to the new country. Why? Because we suffer like a loss. It's a loss of like the mentality of the person you used to be there. Now you need to figure it out yourself again. So this is like a loss, grief, and it's worthy to speak about that and to just bring things out. So, okay, it's the culture, the language, and the society. Everything is different. We probably speak another language in our countries. We probably had another interaction with people. In America, people is more less likable to have like physical touch in a good way, like a hug or a kiss to say hi. So we need to make ourselves aware of this kind of yours day-by-day rules, but it's something that we need to work on. And I think to have the skills to ask for help with a professional is really important, because we need to take the same care about our physical health in our mental health or in our psychologist side, because we can see the emotions, right? We can see the emotion like something tangible, but they are there, and it's worthy to work on there. So I think these are two tips I will bring out to you. And I think it's really important to have self-awareness, to keep your values, your belief, and your identity. To try to keep and knowing who I am had helped me to grow. Like, for example, during my immigration process and my adaptation process, like culturally in the society, with job searching and development and growing. For example, I bring these examples. When I was working in a restaurant, in a Mexican restaurant here in New Jersey, my English wasn't that great. So my ex-boyfriend was like, hey, why you don't try in an American restaurant? You are speaking more English. So why don't you try? And I feel scared having him helping me, but he called some people and he just do a research in Google, and he brought me to one restaurant. I was so scared, like, hey, are you guys looking for waiters? And they was so open and they gave me the job. So I moved from a place where I was working super hard to another place where I work less, and I had the opportunity to have time for studying English. Another example is moving from survival to professional. Volunteering and emotional support group for me was a platform that allowed me to gain experience. Professional experience here in the United States is really valuable, and people really appreciate being a volunteer. And you also start to build a network and a connection with other organizations, and just put yourself in better places, more direct to your career. And especially during COVID, it was really traumatic. And as Laura mentioned in the beginning, COVID was something that make like a mark before and after in our generation, especially for immigrants, because we already had been suffering from all this trauma from the immigration laws and missing our families. And then we went backlog, suffering isolation, depression, anxiety disorders. So I think it's really important just to have the opportunity to speak out about these kind of issues. And the second one is my 10 for my psychological perspective is embrace your story, lead your process. Why? Because I really think it's important to have balance and reality, and knowing where I came from regarding my family story and the wins and the loss, and also the highs and lows in life, accepting and validating different experiences like welcome and rejections. It's good to feel welcome in a country, but also it's good to make yourself aware about rejection. And overcoming rejection, I think, is a really important skill in life, just for your personal life and also for your professional lives. And the other thing, success and failure. It is important to have awareness of embrace the success you have in your life, but also to express when you think you fail, and reaching for help is really important. And the richness and the poverty, the different stage of life, finding inner kindness and nurturing relationship with God had helped me to keep myself strong and determined face and overcome challenges in life, either bad or good. Because I think life is a whole thing. You can just only think the good things and just like miss the bad things, because if you embrace the whole story, like the whole person that you are integrating yourself like an individual, because we are we are made of bio, psycho, social, and spiritual lens. So I think it's really important to keep ourselves together and embrace your story and lead your process.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andreina. I hope another theme that resonates with everybody tonight is this idea of how do you make your own path, and what are some professional development opportunities or strategies. And we have a second guest speaker who I will introduce in a little bit, Alexandra Sineris, who is also going to talk to us about that and about the role of positionality in this process.